Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Kat, and today I wanted to talk about some of the most common Danish Christmas traditions. So, being a Dane, some of our most sacred traditions actually revolve around food, but I have put those together in a little bit of a separate list. The way I've done it is I have divided the list into sections where it's like up until Christmas, and then what we do on December 24th, where Christmas basically breaks down in Denmark. One of our most common traditions is advent calendars, where you either scratch or open small doors, and then something like a tiny icon is hiding behind, or like a piece of chocolate or something like that. But we also have advent calendars on TV, so we usually have some sort of show, and I think there are several shows at this point that is being shown for each day in December up until the 24th, where they would show the final and 24th episode of this advent calendar. But we also do have Advent in its traditional sense, so we have 4 Sundays up until Christmas that we will call Advent. And the latest date that the 4th Sunday in Advent would be placed would be on 24th of December. And it's just an old tradition that marks the start of a new church year. We're not really religious in Denmark, but we still keep to some of these traditions that are grounded in something Christian, because we are officially Christian, but we're not really that religious. But we still keep some of the traditions just because we're a very tradition-bound country. So that's why we keep these Sundays in Advent. And on each Sunday, we would light a candle. So for the first Sunday in Advent, we would light 1 candle. And on the second, we would light 2, and 3 and 4th. And yeah, you get the point. And some people also get gifts on Advent. So they would have 1 little gift at each Sunday in Advent. This can also be used as an Advent calendar. So you, on all of 24 days in December up until Christmas, you can get some sort of present every day instead of chocolate, or like scratching advent calendars or something like that. On the 13th of December, we have a tradition called Saint Lucia. It's based on the myth about Saint Lucia that wanted to keep her virginity in a arranged marriage, and she was then killed because of a misunderstanding and back and forth, and then she was killed as a martyr. Well, we kind of still celebrate her. See the point before where Denmark is a very has many traditions based on Christian values, but we're not really that religious. Also applies here. And we celebrate it in a way that we would walk almost like a parade, like a small parade, and would be mainly the girls dressed in white, and the front girl having a huge like crown of lights, and then there will be a lot of girls behind her walking with lights in their hands like this, and they will have a light between their hands, and then they will walk and then sing this particular song about it. So that's what we're doing on December 13th. Then some schools or workplaces have this thing where they have it's a bit like a secret Santa, except it's not. Sometimes you can get like a Santa that's teasing you. So your Santa might be teasing you or be nice to you up all throughout December, and when it's the 24th, then they will be revealed and they will give a gift in like a classical secret Santa kind of way. Some people also go to church. Sometimes it's on Christmas Day, so 24th of December. Or they might go the day before or the day after. It's a bit depends on when church is having the Christmas sermon. Then people also have watch a lot of movies, like Christmas movies around the holidays. And it depends on what family you're from, I guess, which classics that are your favorite and you have to watch each year. Personally, I am a big Love Actually fan. I can't get proper Christmas without me watching Love Actually. So that's my personal Christmas movie. I also have a thing after Christmas where I like to watch Lord of the Rings. I don't know why, but it's suddenly become like a Christmas thing. And if it's not Lord of the Rings, there might be the Harry Potter movies. Depends on the year, depends on the mood, but that's basically my Christmas movies. Then we also have uh, Christmas parties, or not really. We don't call them parties because they're not always parties, but more like gatherings, like a Christmas lunch. That would be the direct translation. We do fun things together and we eat a whole lot of food. And it's often the same kind of food that we eat. So that's pretty much uniform all over the line. But when we place that Christmas party or that gathering is usually throughout December, but can also be in November or sometimes even be delayed until January. Depends on the circle of friends or acquaintances, or if it's workplace associated, then depends on those people entirely. Some also have their Christmas lunch with family on the 25th afterwards, or the 26th. That's also very individual depending on which Christmas traditions that your family is keeping to. Then on 24th, we do have some different ways of doing it, and of course this list is only some of the most common traditions, I guess. But I think some of these are definitely the more standardized Danish traditions. So usually the kids or the families with kids, they like to see Disney's, from all of us to all of you, this particular show that Disney is always releasing every year because kids love it. And I have done it as a kid, but then I got older and I guess I grew up. I know it's a hard thing to say, but I guess I grew too old to worry about watching Disney. But I did watch it a lot as a kid, and it was just like the best thing about Christmas was this Disney Christmas show. Some people like to go for a long walk on the 24th and just, get some fresh air before we're gonna eat for the whole night. But it's definitely not everyone, and it also depends on how busy you are on the day or how much time you already spent together, how far you have to drive that day, all that kind of stuff. But I personally like to go for a long walk on Christmas Day because it's just a nice way of calming down and celebrating and taking in the year that went and enjoying that you're alive and you have this sacred time of peace and quiet to yourself. And then sometimes people like to decorate their Christmas tree on 24th. With me personally, I did usually decorate my Christmas tree on the 24th of December. And some people do it beforehand. It's also very dependent on who you are and or what you grew up with. But I do think this is a very nice way of at least getting the kids involved in something that's very Christmas-like. Either you make the decorations yourself, or you just have something stored away that you can just put on your Christmas tree. But that's also a huge part of Christmas is also gatherings where you get together and say a happy Christmas, and you can't include some Christmas decorations, either like your own candle decorations with candles. I don't know what it's called in English, but either that or just decorations to put on your Christmas tree or put in your home during December. But that's also a big part of Christmas preparation, either before or on Christmas Day. I don't know if this is the same in other countries, but in Denmark, our Christmas tree has a star on top. And we also usually put candy in our decorations. Like we have hearts, braided hearts, and we have something called krammerhus. That's basically just like a huge cone-shaped basket where you can put candy in. And then after all is said and done, the kids can just go around and just eat all the candy on the tree. And we call it to eat the Christmas tree. And it's also a classical Danish tradition. Then we, of course, have the Christmas feast. That's a big one because there's a lot of pig and there's a lot of meat. And I think the base of the Christmas feast is mainly approximately the same constituents, but some people have different, certain different alterations. But it is a feast nonetheless. It's just a huge table full of food, and once we have just eaten and eaten and eaten, we go on to dessert, and that's I've heard we only have this in Denmark. It's like something called risalamande. So it's like a rice pudding that you whip with some cream and some chopped almonds, and then you put like a cherry sauce on top. And it's very Danish. And we also do this thing where we put a whole almond inside, or maybe more than that, depends on how many prizes we have. But the person that finds this almond, this whole almond, will be the winner of the prize. And yeah, it's just this one is very common, and I think most people have it in their repertoire of Christmas traditions on Christmas Day, and also sometimes during these Christmas lunches. It's quite fun, and there's usually a whole lot of drama involved, like people just pointing fingers, because if you just, as the person who has the almond, if you just take it out, then nobody wants to eat the rest of the risalamande, and they won't continue on the search. So you have to really hide the almond throughout the whole thing without chewing it, and everybody is being so suspicious of each other, just pointing fingers, and there's so much drama. It's always like, oh, you always get the almond, and blah 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 blah, and there's just people just biting and bantering, and it's usually pretty fun, and I think that's why we just keep on doing it, even though it's kind of silly. But yeah, that's Danes for you, alright? Then we also do raffles, or is it called raffles? It's where you have like a whole bunch of Christmas presents, and then you have some sort of game, usually with dice, and you have to get as many presents you can in an unknown amount of time. And sometimes you have to steal from other people, and that can also cause a lot of drama and people pointing fingers at each other, and yeah, there's a whole lot of funny family bantering involved in that, and it's usually just fun and games. Then we have something that many people find weird or interesting. It's we call it dance around the Christmas tree, or we just hold hands and then we walk around the Christmas tree. Sometimes we jump and sing and dance around the Christmas tree. It depends on how lively and invested you are that year. And then all the while we sing a lot of Christmas songs and Christmas carols, and we're just having a jolly old time. And yeah, it's something that I think most people find a little bit weird, but it's just something that we do, and we never really questioned it. Some people don't do it because they think it's annoying, or they don't want to because they just want to sit down and watch a show rather than that, and that's totally fine, but it's usually one of those very standardized Danish traditions. And then, of course, the Christmas presents. We usually open presents on December 24th. I know basically the rest of the world is opening presents on the 25th of December, but we usually do it on the 24th. And that's the time that all the kids are waiting for. They're just suffering all the way through the end of the day, and when that's said and done, then we start opening the presents. And then some families also do this thing where they go to a bar or a local pub, or they might go for a pub crawl. I don't know. They're just, heading out for the city and drinking a lot of alcohol and having a good time, partying, stuff like that with everyone else that's also going partying that day, I guess. I know it's a common thing in the bigger cities. It's not something I've done personally, but I have heard about people that do this, and like whole families that just go to town and just party like crazy, and they're having a good time, and that's just their family tradition, and that's just as normal as not doing it, I guess. There are also like huge parties for mainly young people in the smaller cities, like out on the countryside, where they have like small parties where people, when they go home for Christmas, then they will go to that party and then will say hi, and they will have this time together and catch up on everything and have a bit of a reunion and just have a good time with each other. And that's kind of nice, considering how most youths usually move out into one of the biggest cities like Copenhagen or Aarhus. But then they have this party on the 25th of December where they can gather around and have a reunion and just, catch up with each other and still seeing your old pals again. I'm gonna start off with the most important one, of course. It's the Christmas feast that we usually eat on the 24th of December. The constituents of a traditional Christmas feast might vary from family to family, or from household to household, or whoever is going to have their Christmas together that year. But it usually contains a roast duck and like a pork roast, I think it's called, with pork cracklings on top. Sometimes there is some, I don't know what it's called in English, but like this huge specific Christmas sausage called a medister, or medister, depends on which regional accent you're saying it in, I guess. But people usually eat potatoes for that. Either just plain white or yellow potatoes, but sometimes also, or usually also, something called brown potatoes. It's like caramelized potatoes that's just been warmed in some hot caramelized sugar. And on the side of that, we have fermented red cabbage, or sometimes also like a fresh red cabbage salad that's inspired by Christmas. And on top of all this lovely stuff, we have a buttload of gravy. And that gravy is mainly made from the duck roast or the pork roast, depends on the family or the recipe for the gravy. I think it's like one of those family secrets maybe. Some people also eat these meatballs called frikadeller, or they might eat some roast turkey or some chicken or whatever. It's one of those things that vary from family to family, and especially in these times where you have vegetarians and vegans and people that don't eat certain foods of religious reasons, or like like if they're allergic or intolerant towards this. All depends on the individuals mainly. Some people also eat starters. In my family, we have a tradition of eating some sort of starter that's based around, or that's comprised of some sort of fish or seafood. But that all varies from year to year, or who's making the starters, or if we're having starters a year at all. As I said, it's very individual and it varies from family to family. Then I think most families can agree on the next item, and that's the dessert. It's something called risalamande. And I think that's one of the traditions, like food traditions in the Danish culture, that first off is solely Danish, but also one of the traditions that are most common in the Danish households. Then we have like Christmas lunches or Christmas parties, or these gatherings where we eat a lot of food together, and we also have risalamande at that one. But then it's comprised of several tables. We have a cold table and we have a warm table, and on the cold table we usually have some sort of smoked salmon or smoked herring, or marinated herring, or like fermented herring. It's like all sorts of herring and smoked fishes, and sometimes like breaded fish that's been pan fried with a lot of remoulade on. It's this weird also Danish sauce called remoulade that is just, it goes very well with breaded fish, and is usually eaten on top of bread. Either rye bread, classical Danish rye bread, or on top of standard white bread. And then we have on the side, we have the warm table, I guess it's called. Then we have something called medister or medister, depending on what region in Denmark you're from. And it's just basically like a huge sausage that has been pan-fried and warmed. And then we also have frikadeller, that's like these meatballs made of minced pork, fermented red cabbage again. Or sometimes we also have something called stuvet hvidkål. It's a cabbage that has been cooked with some kind of a light white sauce, I guess. It's based on some wheat and some cream, I think, with a little bit of nutmeg. And for me, it's just like one of my favorite things about Christmas is stuvet hvidkål. But I also think this is very much depending on the gathering or the circle that you are meeting up in. And then we also have something like a classical leverpostej, a Danish leverpostej called leverpostej. And it's usually warmed, and then you have bacon on top and some fried mushrooms. That also used to be my favorite back in the day where I ate meat. And that's usually also something you put on your bread or your open sandwich. That's very classical Danish as well. Then we have all the baked goodies, or like the cakes or cookies and stuff like that. We have something I think it's also pretty much just pure solely Danish. It's something called æbleskiver, or like apple slices, and it's not like it sounds. It's not like pieces of apple or apple slices. It's nothing about that. It's like some sort of pancake-like dough that you then bake in this like a pan, but it has like these scoops where you put the æbleskiver in, and then you like small balls of pancake dough is the closest thing I can think of. It's a very Danish thing, and you eat them with powdered sugar and some jam, and like the jam of your choice. And it's usually very, very, very Danish and very classical Christmas tradition. But on top of that, we have all sorts of cookies. We have these round or kind of small donut-shaped cookies called vaniljekranses. So it's basically just like a ring of very sweet butter cookie with vanilla. And we have something called brunkager, or brown cookies. This has this very distinct taste of Christmas for me. It's a bit like gingerbread, but without it tasting like ginger. Then we have honey cakes dipped in dark chocolate. It's also one of our personal favorites here in this home. And we have so many different sorts of butter cookies, and we have all sorts of cookies like that. And I think the last cookie I'm going to mention that I can think of is something called pebernødder, or directly translated, it's called peppernuts. It's these small round bite-sized cookies that tastes very particular, but I guess a little bit of pepper. But it is some sort of spiced, tiny spice cookie that you roll out into a long sausage, and then you cut it out and you round them off, and then you bake them for a certain amount of time. But otherwise than that, I think I have been through most of it. Should you be a Dane watching this and noticing I forgot something, or if you have some alterations that you would like to mention, please sound off in the comments, because I would love to know what your Christmas food traditions are, and I'm sure that a whole lot of other people would like to know as well. But that's it for me, guys. I hope you liked this. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, comment, subscribe to my channel. I don't have anything else to say, but thank you so much for watching, and have a very happy, merry, lovely Christmas out there. And please take good care of yourself and each other, and I will see you very soon. Bye!